Hello and welcome to Nolo Time, episode 35. My name is Obed. I am one of your hosts, and with me is the man that lives his life cashing checks and snapping necks, Mr. Joel Young.
What's good, guys? What is good? Oh man, that was a great intro. I was gonna just say, I'm feeling very marvelous today.
Oh, okay.
Definitely feeling very marvelous. I got my Guardians tee on. Yeah, I can't wait to talk. Can't wait to talk about this movie, man. I'm real hyped about this, but I'll throw it to you first before we get into my stuff.
Cool. Man, not much on my side. Really, I have been hammering away at Dragon Ball FighterZ. Some interesting stuff going on. I think I found my team. Finally went online, won my first match. The matchmaking is weird on that game because it actually shows win rate, and it's like it's showing win rate. It's intimidating. So because I'm used to Capcom games mostly, and those games they don't show win rate. They show basically a pool of points, and those points keep going up as you win, or they decrease if you start losing. So I'm used to that sort of thing, and then I'm going in, and it's like, oh man, it's showing win rate. So it's intimidating. But I think I found my team finally. Just keep hammering away at that game. That game is really, really good, man. I'm still in love with that game. They actually announced the first two DLC characters. There's going to be 8 for the first season. There's someone data mined the game. It's a guy that's been data mining fighting games for a while now. I believe his name is X Kara, if I'm not wrong. And apparently there's slots for up to 40 characters. So there's definitely going to be like up to season 3 on this thing. So this thing's got legs, and it's still very crowded. All the servers are pretty much full. There's still a lot of people on PS4, so very active. Like I said, the matchmaking's kind of funky, but I'll figure it out. No worries with that. But the reason that I wanted to bring it up, Joel, I again love the game, but I remember that I had like 35 episodes of Dragon Ball Super on my DVR.
Oh my goodness.
So I started binging, and I think I watched like 10. I watched up to episode, I think 17. And so I was like, you know what? There's some really cool stuff going on this series that I've seen because the internet's a place and there's spoilers everywhere. It's like, but you know what? Even though I got it spoiled, I need context, and I started binging and watched like 10 episodes over the weekend. And man, it's really good. It's really good. Not so much like Z, because Dragon Ball Z had a lot of downtime where there was a lot of build-up. That was a big thing on Dragon Ball Z, that everything was a build-up. Every fight was a build-up. There's a big training sequence that's several episodes long, and there's speeches that are like an episode long of like someone just making a monologue. It's crazy. So this is very different. There's a lot of character development that I wasn't expecting, and I love it because I love the characters so much, and they're characters that I've pretty much, I want to say, grown with, although I was almost an adult when I started watching Dragon Ball Z. But it's characters that I love, that are very near and dear to my heart. So just to get more exposure and have them be more developed as characters was excellent. The fights are not great. The Z fights were better, and it's because you can tell where they really cut budgets. Like there's certain scenes that look really, really nice, and there's other scenes that are like really choppy, and you can tell that they cut corners on the animation. So it's inconsistent, but just because of the character development being so good, and some, of course, the epic scale of the series. I'm really, really enjoying it. So I am really happy to keep plowing at this thing. So on my DVR, I think I have up to episode 52, if I'm not wrong. But I went in and got I went in and got the trial for Crunchyroll because I subscribed to it, but I never used my trial. And it's been like 4 years, so 4 or 5 years. So I went back and I set up my trial. So I used the trial. I was like, I'll watch it on the iPad. So it's Japanese with English subs versus what's on my DVR is dubbed, which is the Cartoon Network. What they were showing on Cartoon Network, which is fine because it's still uncut, but it's the dub version, which I don't mind at all. So I can watch either or, and I'm fine with it. And yeah, that's been most of my weekend, man. I'm back in, and I'm hyped because it's fun, and I'm really enjoying both Super and the game, and I'm really looking forward to what the DLC for this game is going to be and keep putting more hours on it. Other than that, Joel, I jumped into Battlefront real quick for a couple hours.
Nice.
Battlefront 2, and it's still no issues with getting matches. It's still a lot of people playing it. It's still a lot of fun. I was like super rusty because I didn't play for a few weeks and went back and just trying to get used to moving around, but I was like, I had like 2 rusty matches, and then I got the hang of it again, and then I was doing pretty good. So, that game, it's unfortunate. I really love that game. I wish I would say the same for Marvel, because Marvel, I really like the game, but I fell harder than a freaking rock. It's just ridiculous. But on this one, I keep going back to it because I really, really enjoy the multiplayer on that game. So that's pretty much what I have for this weekend. But Joel, I know, and we all know, Black Panther was the thing, and a lot of people are still very, very hyped for it. You went and saw it. I've already talked to a couple of people that saw it, and they have very high remarks for it. But we're waiting for that. We haven't talked since last week, since before you saw the movie. So I'm going in blind. I don't know what you have to say. So go ahead, man.
Well, I'll start it off on a positive note. Wakanda forever. Man, like, I think that's the best part of the whole movie. It's just the Wakanda theme. Like, if you have to buy into this fantasy, you have to buy into this new world, the same way we bought into Asgard when you go watch the Thor films. That's how we feel about with this movie, Black Panther. There's a lot to understand about Wakanda, and like, okay, this place is supposed to be one of the most powerful, richest war areas in the world, and yet no one knows who they are, where they come from. How do we let people believe that that's even possible? And they do that. Man, my experience was a fun one. I went to see this at the 40X theater that we have here in Orlando. I was actually able to comp this. I got this collectible ticket here.
Oh, nice.
In the theater. So this is from the original first of the movie. So but that was pretty cool. To tell my kids someday when I have some kids, tell them, Dad went to see the Black Panther the first time there ever was one of those movies, and I was there for the experience. Yeah, our 40X makes it feel more like a ride than a movie. Actually, one of the guys that I went to see it, and he might be listening to the podcast because I gave him the information. He subscribed right away. But he joked. He said, "I felt like I told my friends I'm coming to the Black Panther ride right now," because that's literally how it felt. The 40X theater. Before I go to the movie, the 40X theater. I think they've done some upgrades to it since the last time I've gone. It was way more intense, like shaking and throwing and more water, and it was way more intense than I last remembered. And I think for some people they loved that, and other people they were very turned off to it. For me, I'm young, whatever. You know, I don't care. I'm not a crazy 3D person. It's 3D, so you know it's what it is. But I think it's more about the effects. Like when you're going into when the first thing you get into Wakanda, you can actually smell like this nature. I don't know how to describe it. The smell of nature, as if I'm outside. You know,
they have like smell of pine or something like that. Like
right.
outdoorsy. Okay,
Very,
that's interesting.
almost like if you're on Soarin' at Epcot, you know,
Yeah.
like how you got that smell when you're by the elephants, or whatever, kind of like that. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, so into the movie. This movie, I think the best part about this movie is that it's mythology building, and I think the actors, the talent. I think the villain of this movie, Killmonger, Eric, he's definitely probably. Yeah, I'm not gonna say he's better than Loki, but he's probably right behind him as a villain.
That's what I've heard from a lot of people is that he's up there with Loki for Marvel villains.
Yeah, he's up there because it's not just his motivations, because his motivations are he kind of falls into a superhero cliche a little bit, you know, of that person who feels that they're entitled to something, right? He's the one who wants the throne, and Killmonger wants the throne. So yeah, there's a little bit of those cliches, but there's something about the it's not just the strong performance of the actor, but the strong written elements of his direct family connections and the way he describes how he feels. You know, a lot of these people, it's just, I'm just angry, I'm entitled. But the way he describes how he feels about the throne and how he feels about Wakanda and how he feels about T'Challa, you get this strong emotional pull where most villains, they're forgettable, you just don't care. And I think that's a huge positive for Marvel. Props to Ryan Coogler for his delivery on that. I think the only thing about T'Challa as a hero that some people may not like is that he's a little bit he goes across a little bit perfect. He's not a very flawed character at all. And I know a lot of people like these imperfect, flawed heroes. You know, he has his real battle is the kingship, right? Like being worthy of being a king. And they continue almost the same kind of conversation that was had with Captain America, where, you know, how when Steve, when he's going to get the super soldier serum, it talks about be a good man, like have a good heart. The same kind of monologue is given to T'Challa by his father. Oh, spoilers. I'm dancing around it. But if you've seen Civil War, you know about his dad. But spoilers, he kind of gets this monologue where he's basically saying it's hard for a good man to be a king. And that's, I think, the most kind of hard part about him is like he cares so much for the people, T'Challa, that's the thing that he struggles with the most. But as a character, it feels like you never feel like he's gonna lose. You never feel like he's someone that's in real trouble. And there's a sequence where there's some really Black Panther gets whipped around. Like, he really gets whooped at one point of the movie. That's all I'll say. You know, for some people, they're oohing and ahhing in the theater, but I'm watching it the whole time. I'm like, I never felt like this guy's over. Like, it's bad. There's just something about him. It's almost like a Batman-esque character. You know what I mean? Where, like, no matter how bad Batman's down, his back is broken, the Dark Knight, you know, rises. And, like, you still know Batman's going to be back.
I like that. Not necessarily but a lot of people, when Black Panther showed up, and I'm talking about casual fans.
Right.
When Black Panther showed up on Civil War, it's like, wait, is this like the Batman of the Marvel thing? Because he kind of sort of looks like Batman, and he has this, you know, demeanor sort of like Batman does on Civil War. And going back to T'Challa, it goes back to Civil War, where he's presented as not a very flawed character. The only flaw that he had was he was a little bit blinded by revenge. But at the end, he realizes, like, I was gonna make a big mistake. This is not what I was supposed to do, and he actually empathized with Zemo and
Bucky
and Bucky and why it's like, wait, this is not right. So and he did the right thing, you know, at the end. Spoilers, movie's but what 2 years old now, so it's
Right.
fine. But yeah, I feel like if they would have given him some flaws, or at least him be in some type of peril, because we didn't see that on Civil War. Like you said, if he got whooped around, that for some, like for me, whenever I see the movie, I think that'll be just fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a very good analysis. The way you pointed it out there, like it didn't necessarily bother me, but I can understand where some people can address it. But I mean, his character, he's not going to be Tony Stark. He's not going to be the guy
Yeah,
who's like, you know, it's the first time you see this guy around, you're like, oh my goodness, he needs help. So it's fine, you know. That would be like a similar form with Doctor Strange, Iron Man, right? Same thing. With Marvel's good about changing it up. Uh, the vibranium, amazing. They do stuff with vibranium that only comic book fans could dream of seeing happen. Like, you see the way Cap's shield has it, how it makes Cap so much more of a superhero with his shield, how it's needed. With T'Challa and his vibranium, it's like he's so much protecting. It's like, if you realize if this thing got anywhere else outside of his country, which is why when, you know, Claw has it, it's like, oh my goodness, like this is some really bad, like dangerous kind of level stuff. Like if it fell into the wrong hands, you'd be concerned. If this was a real artifact, this was a real thing that could be working at the level that it was in the movie, yeah, you'd be right to be concerned about regulations on something like that, because it is a very powerful substance. I love Shuri. Gosh, her character is someone that I hope to see that her interact with the other Avengers. Like, you have Black Panther, and you know how Batman has Alfred. Shuri's kind of like the Alfred in a sense for Panther, except it's his sister. But she never really like gets in the way. She just wants to help him as much as she can, propel him forward. And she creates some of the best gadgets that happen in the movie. Speaking of gadgets, he is very much, this movie is very much like a James Bond kind of movie, the way they make the Black Panther. And it's so much like James Bond that they even allude to it and actually directly reference James Bond in the movie at one scene. So, because it's where, like, yeah, Wakanda's the base, but he can very easily travel the world and go to these different places and take care of stuff that's directly connected back to Wakanda. So, like, you know, wherever he goes, he's still going to be a hero wherever he goes. And that's something that I think is really cool. I think that's going to help Marvel going forward to keep the character interesting. He doesn't have to be in Wakanda. He could be, like we saw in Civil War, he could be in anywhere and still be Black Panther. It will still be interesting, you know? And I don't think Marvel's really had that problem, but it's easy when you have a cultural character for people to kind of get associated just with Wakanda. Wakanda is not like someone think, oh, it's Africa. Okay, it's going to be this like tribal movie where like people are just going to be walking around living in huts. No. Wakanda's like Silicon Valley, San Francisco. Yeah. Like, it's amazing. The first time you enter in, T'Challa says it best. He says, this never gets old. Because he just goes right in and like the technology is just off the charts, ridiculous. So, yeah, Ulysses Claw, amazing. Some stuff that happens there, won't say, but just gotta see the movie. But his character gives a much needed humor in the movie, because the movie's actually not as funny as the other Marvel movies. It's not that it's not funny; it just it doesn't nearly just make jokes. But Claw is an extremely hilarious character. Andy Serkis does a great job.
Oh yeah, Andy Serkis is great on everything he's on. So.
And I'm pretty sure, you know, regardless of this, similar to the same thing with Star Wars with Snoke. Like, he's the kind of actor because he's known for his mocap stuff. I'm sure he's involved in many other Marvel stuff right now that we don't even know of. Maybe in Infinity War, where he's playing like some other random alien, because they don't have to just use his face; they can use him for CG, and he'll be fine. So I'm sure he's locked in for other stuff.
Yeah, he's so great at voice acting too, so he can imitate different voices and do different things with his voice. And yeah, he's like, whenever like there's like mocap actors and voice actors, and then there's Andy Serkis, right? Yeah, I mean, he's in a whole different level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the technology with this movie is really solid. The only thing is there's like it doesn't bother me as much in the most of the movie, but when you get to the end, it does fall. And look, I love Black Panther. I'm not saying that the movie. I'm not trying to criticize the movie, but I have to see it as I have to call it as I see it. And the same way I felt with Wonder Woman, where it became a little bit of that video gamey, where it's like human person jumps and it's like video game looking character, and then back to human. They do that with Black Panther, unfortunately, where they struggle to get it right. I'm hopeful that Marvel will get it right in future examples of him, because it didn't bother me the way he was looking in Civil War, but for some reason in this movie, in the end of the movie, it really looked video gamey, and not in a good way, for certain scenes.
Yeah, and that's something that we talked about when the trailers came out, and we talked about it, that there was some concern, especially with that first trailer. That was a little bit rough.
The car jump scene.
Yeah, that was a little bit rough. The second trailer, it looks like it got definitely retouched, and I'm assuming that the final version of that sequence, it's much better. But it's something that we talked about, and that's again something that I heard about the movie, that the CG is not great, and also there's some obvious green screen George Lucas type of problems with some scenes.
That is true. That is true. But the best sequence in this movie is the car chase scene. Oh my goodness. You think you've seen stuff in the trailers or in these little spots? No, you have not. You got to see that car chase scene. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So, I mean, I could talk about Black Panther forever. I don't know if you have any other questions for me, Obed, that you're curious about. But yeah, I think the movie, I'll give this movie a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Okay.
I think it's the way for it to start the way it did. It's going to be in the top tier of Marvel films. It's up there. It's really a special movie. And I was sitting in the theater and I'm thinking to myself, with some of the stuff that just the story arc of this movie, I'm like, when is Marvel going to get finally recognized for something other than sound effects and some visual effects? Like, when is Marvel Studios going to get recognized for like adapted screenplay?
Yeah.
Like something like that. We'll see. But I mean, this it's solid.
Awesome. How about the obvious Infinity Stone? Tell me a little bit about that without spoiling it.
Dude, I can't spoil anything for you, but this movie, dude, no, I'm telling you right now, man, it's not what you actually think. When you're thinking of Infinity Stones, I wish I could I'll have to drop the ball on you afterwards when we stop recording this. But in just generally watching from beginning to end, I'm not talking about post-credit sequences, there is like no Infinity War connection. Being completely honest with you. From beginning to end, I'm not talking about post-credit sequences, but the movie is very Black Panther. There's like no Infinity War. There are Civil War connections. You had to see Civil War to understand where this movie was going, the trajectory, and there's sequences completely reshown from Civil War. But Infinity War, when you get to the post-credit sequences, which there are two of them, stick around for it, directly going right into Infinity War. And that's where I think Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm curious why that movie wasn't coming out before Infinity War, even more so now because of the lack of certain connective tissue. So that is something that I'm like, I'm curious, how is it going to take time away from Infinity War to set up this other things with the stones? And where I just want to see a straight up war film. I don't know. I mean, we know there's two movies coming. We know what the second one's titled, but yeah, the Infinity War connections you might be looking for aren't there. Is what I'm going to say when it comes to just beginning and end of the movie.
All right, that's cool. Can't wait to see it. That's another one that I have that I actually was trying to make it on Monday, but I couldn't. I don't want to. I just didn't want to go into the movie theater with a 3-year-old. And chaos ensues and all that. So I'm like that. If I've got to wait just to respect the audience and not have them go through that trouble, I'll wait, and I don't mind. I know that March, like the next month, is going to be packed month. They just announced Star Wars is coming in the end of March. There's Thor on the 6th, Justice League on the 13th. So I'm definitely gonna grab all those. So that's going to be a busy month, and my wallet is going to be hurting.
Well, speaking of grabbing stuff, after our last episode, we were talking about Marvel versus Capcom, and I went ahead and picked up Marvel versus Capcom. So yeah, I picked up the Steelbook. I've yet to actually play it. I did download it and install it, so it's ready to go. But I was playing some more Battlefront just like you, so I'm waiting to kind of let that die down and then go straight into this and see how I feel about it. But I have this assuming that they end making copies. I have my copy on me, so I feel safe.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, if the rumors are true, that game's gonna be no longer in print in a few months. So cool. And there's good deals on it out there, guys. So PSA.
That was the last copy of a Steelbook at my Best Buy when I picked it up.
Oh, really? Nice. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe lowering the price may just bring people in. That happened to Battlefront 2, because it's on sale right now on PSN for like $25 or something, and it was on really good. The pricing was really good around the holidays, and last month it was on sale for a decent price as well. I believe 1 week, and that brings people in. And as long as you keep bringing a user base, they may keep supporting it. So who knows? But yeah, check it out and let me know what you think. I mean, there is a Black Panther sequence on Marvel, and if you bought the Steelbook, you get Black Panther.
Exactly, I did realize that.
Yeah, so you get the extra characters. So cool, man. Just we'll wait for that update.
Yeah, next week, the next episode, you should get my Marvel versus Capcom reaction from a Marvelite himself.
Cool.
Oh wait, am I cashing checks now?
Oh no, you're not cashing checks. Speaking of cashing checks, Blanca on Street Fighter V came out this week. So during the weekend, I'm hoping to jump in and at least do the story mode, do an arcade mode with Blanca, and just get that fight money, and then go back to playing Dragon Ball.
Oh man,
but that game's so good, I'm telling you. So Joe, some changes over at Marvel Comics, not Marvel Studios. I heard that is this going to be like a total reboot of the universe, or are they, now that they technically are own Fox, if you want to call it that, are they going to bring back characters from the Fox franchises that they've killed off, like some of the X-Men? I know that the X-Men was like kind of like on hiatus. Wolverine was dead, and I don't think they've made a Fantastic Four comic in years. So tell us what's going on, man.
Yeah, so we just got an announcement of a fresh start at Marvel Comics, and it's basically going to be something that in May we're going to have. It was a video announcement that went out, and in May we're expecting to hear some type of official full rollout of what this fresh start's going to be, starting off with an entirely new Avengers lineup. And when I say new Avengers lineup, they're basically going back to the original Avengers lineup that happened before the Uncanny Avengers series that they had that came out, where I talked about that, I think, way earlier on last year. So they're kind of bringing back now the originals, the Iron Man, the Captain Americas, the Thor, She-Hulk is now in there. They also have Ghost Rider is like the newest member. Doctor Strange is a character that's going to be rotating, so he'll go to his own, and then he'll come back in. But the fresh start stuff is interesting just because what does this mean? Does this mean a complete reboot? I think it's a soft reboot, and I hate using that terminology personally because it's like a reboot's a reboot. Like, don't call it soft or not. But the reason I say it is just because like what they were doing with this last Avengers lineup was a prehistoric Avengers, right? Like the 10,000 BC kind of Avengers. What they're doing now is that they're moving more to a modern era. However, they're saying that they are going to jump forwards and backwards like they were doing in, I forget, what was the there's another comic series that's out right now that they've been doing that jumping forwards and backwards with. So they're gonna kind of be doing the same thing now with this Avengers. I think from there, going backwards, they're giving you almost like the prequel setup, like what happened before, without saying that it's all the way back in the BC, where tigers were saber tooths or whatever, right? Like it's not gonna be like that. But I think they're setting up the groundwork to completely rebuild this Avengers team back to the way us remembering it, but also setting up room for the new stories they want to tell, which speculation is, X-Men are going to be a part of this, where they were basically the door was shut on them and Inhumans were the ones replacing them. I think it seems like now X-Men are going to come back. I think they're going to still try and slowly simmer them in, just because from a financial standpoint, they understand the Fox deal doesn't close until the end of this year, 2018. We really probably won't see any X-Men characters in a movie until 2020. If we get in 2019, it'll be like the end of 2019, like one of those movies. But probably won't be until 2020 is what the market and what many people have speculated to see. But they film in 2019 the characters. 2020 is when the movies will come out.
Yeah, because what's next year? Is it Homecoming 2 next year, or is that later?
Oh, that's a good question. I think Spider-Man comes out next year, but I know Captain Marvel comes out next year with the Avengers 4 movie. So yeah, I think they've got room enough to film next year what they want, and then throw them in the 2020. Start it off fresh with the Phase 5.
Yeah, they can definitely do that. Also, Joe, not to veer off too crazy, but we'll go back to the comics. But something that we failed to mention is the announcement that there's a Guardians of the Galaxy ride or roller coaster coming to Epcot, and that's 2021, based on projections for construction and whatnot. And this is taking over the same pavilion that the Universe of Energy was occupying. Apparently, they're using the same building, but they're taking everything away and they're making it like an indoors roller coaster ride. That's huge news. Two things that definitely Epcot needed, and then Guardians of the Galaxy coming into an East Coast or a Marvel property coming into an East Coast Disney theme park because of the agreement or contract that Marvel had in perpetuity with Universal back in the 90s when they were bankrupt. But we didn't bring it up. But I'm sorry, man.
No, you're good. No, that's actually a great thing, and it's fine. I mean, I heard that it's supposed to be the largest indoor roller coaster, or one of the most innovative, or something along those. I think it's the largest indoor roller coaster, or something like completely that's being done. So that's gonna be fun. I can't wait to ride it because I'm not a crazy coaster person, but I'll do it. It's Marvel. I'm in.
Yeah.
Back with the comic stuff, man. Like, I do hope to see that with this whole fresh start, that they fix some of the problems where they've had this continuity where it's like this universe, that universe, and you read this comic, but it's really not connected here. I hope that this spreads out, and I think that's the idea behind it from what I've read and what I've seen. That's supposed to be like, this is going to be straight across the board. Everybody is having a fresh start, is how they're referring to it as, and everyone's going to have this connected story to whatever their main Avengers arc is going to be. Hopefully, it's not Captain America saying he'll Hydra again, and and hope by that point, I'll just be interested to see where it goes when May comes. I'll probably pick up a copy because I think that's a smart thing to do. Whenever a new series comes out, pick up the first issue, buy it, help support your local comic book shop, and guess what? It might be worth something later on too. So I definitely recommend it. But yeah, man, that's some of the stuff going on over at Marvel. This fresh start. I think it's interesting because from a film perspective, they've been doing very good. From a comic book perspective, they've struggled, unfortunately. the DC Rebirth stuff did really compete with the Secret Empire stuff that was going on, but DC just in general, I think their solo properties do really strong. The Flash comics, their Watchmen stuff has done really well. So with them combining those universes officially with the Doomsday Clock,
Yeah, I think for the most part, their standalone properties have always done well for DC. Like, the own like Batman's and Dark Knights, and then the Flash and the Supermans and Man of Steel's, and all those do well on their own. They don't necessarily have to be this big events. Like where Marvel, whenever it's a big event, that's when they do okay. But then there's standalones or either hit and miss too with quality. That wasn't the case. I remember back in the '90s with the Spider-Mans and the X-Mens and whatnot that happened in the '90s that were absolutely phenomenal. But then after the bankruptcy and the properties got divided, it kind of like they struggled to find their footing. And I mean, they've had amazing things like Old Man Logan and like Secret Empire and all this and all these things that do really well, but the standalones just struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's something that I'm hopeful that with the success of these movies, like they can at some point put it so deep, like because they are going deeper with these movies, like, and they're going into some sweaty places. My hope is that the sweatier the movies come, that eventually it brings youthful people, young people to say, like, I want to know everything. And I'm not talking about the fan fictions. I want to know the real stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Just going back and you actually hit on something that's very important, and it's bringing young people in to actually get into the actual lore, like the movies bringing in readers for the comic books, which is almost the case with almost certain the case with anime and manga, right? Where people watch the anime, it was like, I want to see more, I want to read more, I want to see the actual full experience, and they go and buy the manga. That a lot of anime fans do that, but that's not the case with like comic book movies, like Western comic book movies, because it's the same scenario with DC. Like Batman v Superman's not gonna get me to buy Batman comics, and we also need to I guess it's very different, because a lot of the people, like, if Marvel gets 1% of the people that goes and watches their movie to buy additional content, but being graphic novels or comic books or whatnot, that's probably like a super win. Versus when you go and you have someone that watches an anime series, and probably 50% of those people are going to go back and read the manga, whether it be digital or going to Barnes & Noble and just buying it. Because Barnes & Noble, you can definitely tell that their comic book section is tiny, but then their manga section is like rows. Like they have 2 rows of manga. And you can tell that those guys are buying.
Well, the Comixologies and the Marvel Comics Online, like that's where it's at now. You pay a subscription price and you get the new things.
That's true. That's true. I've seen a lot of people that are really into comics really moved into digital and early on, because I remember a few people I know moved into Comixology like 8 years ago, like when it came out. And I was like, yeah, I don't need to buy anything else. I just get this on my phone and I read them. And
yeah, that's how the way I got into the digital stuff. Like I was very hesitant. I was like a purist for a long time in the sense of like paper and all that. And then like Avengers X-Men came out, that really strong AVX series that they had. And like I just digitally, I had to get it the second it came out. So just digitally got all of them and just started reading them. And I was like, this is fine. I'm okay, reading it this way.
Yeah, sometimes I mean it's I'm a huge I'm a huge advocate for physical media, But sometimes, and it's the same thing for me with games. Sometimes you see a game that's a good deal, digital version, and just grab it. Might as well, right?
I agree.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah, this is interesting. Hopefully this helps with their financial success, because their financial success from a film side is not an issue. With the money they just made with Black Panther, I don't know if you saw this, Obed, but in their 4-day, or I want to say it's their 4-day stretch, they made more money than Justice League made in its entire domestic run.
no,
Yes.
a
Yeah.
B tier
Black
obscure
Panther who? I
superhero.
mean,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, it's a huge beatdown right now. It's a laughing stock, that much money.
Yeah, they have to be really evaluating where they're going to take those properties, because I don't know if you saw Paramount is rebooting Transformers. They're not going to do the spinoff that we're going to do after they the last one that I haven't even seen yet. I have no interest. Um, that bombed, I guess, really bad,
It's terrible.
and and they're not. They were going to do that Bumblebee spin-off with John Cena, and I guess that's canceled. Or
Really? Because it's coming out Christmas this year, I thought.
that will, because they were going to keep
Steinfeld
making,
and
yeah, they were going to keep making those movies, and I guess that they decided not to do anything
ouch.
and reboot the series. So I'm not sure what the status on that movie was, but as far as I know, I haven't seen pre-production or shooting pictures of it. And John Cena he's back being full time right now. He's usually like takes a few months off, but for the last, I'd say, month and a half since Royal Rumble has been in every week. So you can't see him. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's interesting. Of DC, I know they just hired a new VP of strategy or something for the DC films. Warner Brothers just hired. It's a new lady, so I know they are moving forward. That just happened like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I just see, but Marvel, hopefully their comics succeed and their movies too. But I also hope that the other guys' competition gets it together too, because Batman versus Superman movies like that can't be that divisive. Got to be able to bring fans together. And Black Panther, it is rare when you find someone who's like, this movie was meh, like that. That's gonna be rare to find.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to check it out. But yeah, guys, go out there and buy comic books. There's a bunch of local shops here, especially in Orlando, and
I know.
we are graced with a lot of good local shops here. There's a lot of places that you can get comic books and high quality collectibles if you're into getting your pockets emptied. Yeah. So Joel, this week was the 5th anniversary of the unveil of the PS4. So this was back in February 2013 when they did the that event. I believe it was in New York with Mark Cerny and his angelic voice talking about the specs and innards of the PS4 and the DualShock 4. At this event, they did not show a box and they did not talk about pricing. It was, this is what this is going to be, and then at E3 we got to see the device itself. Yeah, but yeah, looking back, Joe, me personally, as a lifelong gamer and having owned, you know, consoles since the second generation of video games, since the 2600. Um, Man, PS4 is a great console. It's up there, top 5 for me for sure. Because they've had a good stream of high quality content. It works great. The UI is good. The controller's phenomenal, and like it's to me, it's like I've talked in the past. I don't own a PS4 a PS4 Pro, not because I don't want to, but because I'm happy with my standard PS4.
Absolutely.
And that's when you know that your product was a hit from the beginning, when even your hardcore fans have a reason to upgrade and they're happy with what they bought at the beginning, versus the unfortunate competition where there's very few hardcore fans left with their original launch consoles. But I'm interested to see what the future holds. This year is going to be another, like we've talked about in the podcast a few times. It's going to be a packed year. Of course, we already had some games that released, but we got God of War coming in April. Spider-Man's coming out, I guess 2018. Everyone keeps saying 2018. The Shadow of the Colossus remake just launched to critical praise. It's the highest rated game for the year so far in Metacritic, is at a 92. So things that are gonna come in the future, Death Stranding and The Last of Us Part 2, which I think are going to be cross-generation games, but they are coming to this console. And I'm very excited for the future, and I'm very excited for the present, man. It's one of those things that's like, to me, it's so good that I just don't want it to end. And if it ends, I can't wait to actually get into something better. I haven't felt like this. What's the right word that I'm looking for? I guess complacent with a console since the PS2. So PS2, I actually got a PS3 early, and I sort of regret it because price went down dramatically in a couple of years, and I did miss out on a couple of late PS2 titles that came out. So, but yeah, Joe, well, what do you think? What's the future? What do you think of the current status of PlayStation as a whole?
Well, before jumping into the current and the future, I just want to look back at the past and just say, just like you were talking about in the beginning, we remember when Mark Cerny came out talking about this console, and for someone like me, I had a very strong connection to my PS3. I love the PlayStation 3. I love the PS2 as well. I love PlayStation in general. I've had PS1. I still have my PlayStation 1. I still have my PlayStation 2. Still have my PlayStation 3. And obviously I have PS4. I love PlayStation consoles for different reasons. And I have also some of the competitors. I have some of the Nintendo products and what have you. But when you talk about, when you were talking about the launch of PS4, I was just curious about the raw power of PS4. How is this going to perform? How is it going to hold up? It had a lot that they were really trying to sell us on about this console that can really compete with any other console on the market if it's not going to be better than them. And I was still getting attached to the PS3 because I was still thinking, well, the cell processor, you could relook this stuff up, we still don't know the full power of the cell processor.
No,
it was never fully tapped into.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that when there's a really, really good video that I highly recommend you guys that are interested in gaming in general and just technology. It's a Mark Cerny conference about the birth of the PlayStation 4. I can't remember the exact name title of the talk, but it's kind of like a TED Talk kind of thing. And he talks about him coming up with ideas and how to bring this thing. And he said that he thought of bringing an updated version of the cell processor to PS4 because it was by far the most powerful computer microprocessor at the time. And he thought of just updating the cell, simplifying its language so developers can take advantage of it. But at the end of the day, you know, because they really took into consideration developer feedback, they decided to go with the x86 architecture instead. So
Right, and that's where I was going for. I was saying, like, I was so connected to the cell because I was expecting this raw power, and I was, still want to see what could be tapped into. But I understand that when they made PS4, they really were trying to say, like, we're going to be developer friendly. We're not just selling you on the power and all this, but like the cell was something that some developers didn't care for just because it wasn't as developer friendly. It wasn't something that you could just easily make games for. So, the exclusives were great and all that, but just the general cross-platform stuff, it caused some issues, for guys to take longer to put stuff out there. And like I that's what I love about PS4 is like they got the consumer in mind when they made the features and functionality that were needed. They put functionality over like crazy entertainment, where the functionality is what lets you enjoy the entertainment factors that it has to offer. You could make instead of going to the aspect of how can we entertain people and get people hyped and crazy, but the thing struggles to work. They were like, no, we want to make sure this thing works and it's entertaining. And I think that's what really made the PS4 deliver. And that's why, like you say, it is for sure one of the best consoles that we've ever seen to have come out, just because I'm not going to say it's a flawless console, but there's very small issues to have with it.
Yeah.
And that's what's awesome.
If I would have to, if I would be in charge of it right now and would have to make a big change to it, it would definitely be the CPU. Just a little bit of more horsepower on the CPU area, because even the GPU, to me, it's fine. It produces, and I know that with the Pro, it does get a bump. But it's not necessarily gigantic leap when it comes to horsepower on the CPU. I think that what they did is that they went back and looked at previous generations, not just them, but other generations. They went back and looked at what Nintendo had done in the past and having this dedicated, optimized devices that people can just pop in a game and it works and
exactly.
playing. Of course, unfortunately now, because of the texture sizes and world sizes and memory bandwidth and all this stuff that you need to take into consideration, you need the game to install, you need patching, because these things are so complex now.
Which was something when they marketed PS4, they were trying to get around that. They didn't say when they officially launched, like, oh, you're going to be able to start the game while it's installing in the background. Yeah. Hasn't worked out entirely that way with everything, but still took a jab at it.
Yeah, I think in my case, I think about 90% works. Like you can start a game and it says ready to play and you can play it. And then it keeps installing in the background while you start. Definitely, if it would have a downside to what the original hardware was back then, there's very few. Yeah, there's very few downsides, and I think the only downside that the PS4 Pro has is not having a UHD 4K drive for Blu-rays. Other than that, I think that it's probably the best console out there. If you don't want to get into the complexities of, of a PC, and you want the best library, because hands down it has the best library out there. And at the end of the day, it all comes to that. You can have, the most powerful console in the world, but not have content. And you see how that is going right now for the competition. Not to knock down on them, because the hardware they have is fantastic.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you also need to fill that with an amazing library, which Sony has done. Things like Horizon and Bloodborne, Uncharted, and all the even the remasters and remakes they've released. Third-party exclusives and all this stuff that they're working on. They got Street Fighters, it's a console exclusive. So they do work hard, and they do respect third parties and second party studios, and that brings people in. That being said, Joe, what do you think this is going? Me personally, I think we're about a year away from an announcement or a tease of what next gen is going to be, and I think it's going to use. I don't want to like go into like too spec crazy, but I think it's going to have 16 gigs of RAM, and it's going to use the new. I don't know if you saw a couple weeks ago, AMD released a Ryzen 3 APU, basically with integrated Vega graphics. And with that Ryzen, with just the CPU, right? As long as you have fast memory, without a graphics card, you can run like The Witcher 3 at 1080 30 without the use of with an extra graphics card. So this chip is as strong as a PS4 Pro, if you want to compare. Although I think the Pro on The Witcher is upscaling to 1440p. I think we're gonna get something like that. And this chip is only $99 right now for consumers. So what we're gonna see is, of course, Moore's law. These things are gonna come down in price and double in power. I think we're gonna see a version of this that's capable of delivering 4K 60 ish, because it's hard. People don't understand that complex math demands a lot of power from a computer. So that being said, I think they're going to do their best to hit that 4K 60 mark. So I'm thinking about 8 teraflops. Other than that, they need to get rid of that USD drive. That's just me, but at the same time, they've proven with their sales that they don't need it. So
yeah, I would argue it's a must for like looking forward kind of thing, because from a gaming perspective, it's not. I don't think it's an issue, right? Just regular Blu-rays work fine. But I do think if you were looking, and the way PlayStation tends to make their consoles, it's almost like in their mind they're saying like, no matter what, even if we have that generational shift that happens, right, where it's like both are existing, the new one and the old one, at the same time, like no matter what, there's still like a 10-year kind of plan that they almost put out there. Like PS5 will be out, but PS4 will still be kicking. Like it's not going to just be shut down or be on life support or something. Like
it's probably going to be supported until maybe like 2023.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that'd be about that 10 years. It was at 2013, yep. Right? So it's like that.
Yep.
They have that 10-year plan. I feel like that with PlayStation standard. So that's what I love about them. And I think that's why I'm saying like if definitely we'll have to put like have to put this UHD 4K Blu-ray player drive inside of their PS5. PS4, the future of PS4, like there's not really much more they can do because they've delivered a console that I love. I love my PlayStation, man. I love my PS4. I've gotten my money out of it. I feel like I've gotten money's worth out of it because, like we've said, it works. And
it works.
And I don't think there's anything more they have, like features wise, they have to prove or that they can. They'll keep doing patches and updates or whatever. I think the real update that we're looking for has nothing to do with the console, has everything to do with PSN, and that is let's change our names. Please, let's change our usernames.
I'm happy with mine. I've had mine since I've had my PSN name since 2007, and that's the name I used when I used to play Soul Calibur 2 competitively. So I'm good. I'm happy.
I mean, I feel bad for some of the kids that just jump on there and they put these really crazy names that, when they become professionals, they can never use those names just because.
You get Bunk Bro 420 and
right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you can't. It's like you can get a new account, but you get a new account, you lose all your trophies. So it's like the struggle of that. I think that's something that they have to address going down the line, and that'd be a great way to kick off PS5. PS5, bring all your stuff into the system, but let you change your name. Awesome. I'm fine with that. We don't need a glowing thing on the DualShock. I'm not saying it's bad, but it doesn't need to glow blue and red in different colors that I don't see when I'm playing. I just need to have my username be able to change, and I'll be very happy with the system. But I really just think that PS5, there's going to be a lot of mystery, and I feel like they're just going to have to surprise us with innovation, because they don't have to take risk. They can deliver another console, but they have to make sure that's something enough that people say, okay, we love what PS4 did. We're going to have to get PS5. What that is, I'm in the seat just saying, amuse me. I'm the consumer. Do something that gets me moved.
Yeah.
And don't just make it that it's a flashy new console. Okay, what's some new projects that have been working on from now that Mark's saying, okay, this will utilize the power of this new console, the exclusives. That's what they did with PS4. That's what I hope they do with PS5. You cannot go, and I'm not trying to throw shade at Microsoft, you cannot go the route of saying this is a brand new thing and the games are just multi-generation, multi-platform games. So, I can play, I can play Shadow of Mordor on Xbox as I can on PlayStation. You know what I mean? So that's just my hopes. But I'm positive because they've done well so far. And we'll see what happens. If you let the ball drop from here, that will be a shock.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. The next couple of years are going to be really exciting if you're a gamer, for sure. Joe, before we go, I want to plug something in real quick. Two things, actually. There's an Avengers Infinity War weird trailer out there on the internet. So if you go on YouTube, just search for Infinity War weird trailer. It's going to be your first hit. If you guys want to laugh, I highly recommend it. I watched it like 3 times yesterday, dude, because it was so funny. The Tobey Maguire thing coming back is so it's hilarious. That and something that's sort of funny but also serious at the same time. If you follow U.S. politics, you know that there's a lot of talk going on with Russia meddling in the U.S. elections and whatnot. So something really interesting happened. So Paul Eating, who does the voice of Colonel Campbell on the Metal Gear series, read the Robert Mueller indictment documents as the colonel. And man,
listen.
It sounds like he's reading it and I'm hearing it. It's like something straight out of Metal Gear Solid 2, man.
We're living Metal Gear, man. We're living Metal Gear.
It's crazy. So I highly recommend that you can check it out because Paul Eating is a great voice actor. And just him reading the indictment, it's just crazy, man. But
hilarious.
But yeah, that's all I got, man. And you want to go ahead and take us away?
That's right. Guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to us here on No Load Time. We really appreciate that. We want you to stay connected with us. We all can use a friend, and we all need friends out there. So we want you to be our friend. Befriend us on social media. Connect with us at No Load Time. That's at No Load Time on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. There you'll see our updates, when we have new episodes, the fun little stuff here and there in between. Also, we are asking you, if you're listening to us via podcast, go ahead and subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play. If you are an iTunes subscriber, if you could drop us a review, we'd really appreciate that. If you are watching us right now on YouTube, hi guys, you go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel here, No Load Time, and that way you can get notified whenever a new episode comes out. You have your Gmail account, log in, subscribe to us. It's free. It's easy. We really appreciate it. And if you're listening to us, yes, there is a video version out there. Find us on YouTube, No Load Time. With that being said, we also love to hear your feedback. Any questions, comments, what you got out there, shoot it away to us, nolotime@gmail.com. That's nolotime@gmail.com. Thank you again, guys, and I really look forward to our next episode. This is always fun, Obed.
Yeah, it's always, this is like the time of the week, that I was like, you know what, I have an hour, just talk with my buddy, and not think about anything else, and just chillax.
I feel the same, my man.
Yeah. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we will see you on the next episode.
See you guys.